So I was shopping the other day. I was out looking for some ammunition. I was going to go to the range, and so I went to this big box sporting goods store, and I was looking for some cheap range ammo that wouldn't leave my gun covered in filth. Anyways, I was standing there contemplating this purchase, and I must have looked crazy and confused or something, because this little store employee, this guy came up to me and asked if I needed help, and I told him I was looking for some cheap range ammo, and he picked up this blue box that was on the shelf. He took me over to this end cap, and he picked up this blue box, and he was super excited about this blue box of ammunition, and he gave it to me, because one of the tricks of being a good salesman is put the product in the person's hand, right? And so he gave me the ammunition, and he was telling me about all the benefits of the ammunition and how it wouldn't leave my gun filthy, and all of these beautiful things that I'm not really a gun nut. I like to go shooting sometimes, but I just want something I just need to shoot. That's it, once in a while. So he goes on to say that the best part about purchasing this brand of ammunition is that when you purchase a box of it, $1 goes to this foundation, this organization that's set up to provide assistance for the families and for the children of fallen law enforcement officers. And he was super excited about the foundation and about what they do, and he just really wanted to sell me this blue box of ammunition. So me, being the optimistic, open-minded, very personable, very conversational correctional officer, I asked him, does this foundation consider corrections officers law enforcement? Do they donate one of these dollars to correctional officers? And he looked kind of confused, a little bit, like, why was I even asking him that question? And he said no. He said he thinks that they only donate to the families of police officers and sheriff's deputies that are killed or hurt in the line of duty. So I told him that I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that this organization, this foundation, didn't view correctional officers as law enforcement. So his demeanor changed, and he was upset. He was upset with me, and he told me, he said, "You know what?" He goes, "If it wasn't for police officers, you wouldn't even have a job." Now, this is one of those situations where I should have probably just walked away, and if my wife would have been with me, I probably would have, but she wasn't, so I didn't. So I asked him, I said, where do you think those people go? Where do you think the people that are arrested go after the police bring them to jail? What do you think happens to them? Do you think that guy who's a serial rapist, do you think that strong-arm robbery suspect that killed an old lady, do you think that when he goes to prison, that guy is done being a strong-armed robber, that he's done being a murderer or a serial rapist? Do you think that when they show that picture on the news and they put that little 45 to 50 years or 70 to 90 years, which if you work in the prison system, you know that a 35-year sentence is really 15, maybe 12 with some good time, right? They only have to do half of that bottom number, but we don't tell the public that, right? We tell them 70 to 90 years. They think that person's gone forever. In their mind, it's gone forever, but he's not gone forever. Those people are not gone forever. Somebody has to deal with those people. We have to deal with these people. This revelation, this information that I was giving him, obviously was falling on deaf ears, and he said, "Yeah, but you guys aren't really law enforcement. You're not even first responders. You're just corrections." Now, there are two things that you can say to me that trigger me, right? The first one is, don't talk to me like an inmate. If you ever tell me in a conversation or in an argument or in a fight, don't talk to me like I'm an inmate, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to lose my mind, okay? Number two is telling me that I'm just corrections, or that correctional officers are just corrections. Sends me through the roof. Right? And I should have taken off on this guy. I wanted to let this guy know how I felt about him and his little job where he sells lures and ammunition for a living. Right? But I didn't. And I didn't because I can't blame this guy for not knowing what it is that we do and how dangerous of a job that we do and how serious this profession is, because I think that a lot of us, a lot of correctional officers, don't even take our job seriously. And that's a topic for another video. I'm not going to get into that today. So he asks me, he says, what is it that you even do? So I told him, look, every day, one of us puts on our boots and our belt and our badge, and we patrol the most dangerous neighborhood in our respective communities. When we go to work, everybody inside those walls, or somebody that society, via the justice system, has determined cannot be with the rest of the public for whatever reason, right? Inside, there are no little old ladies that need help crossing the street. There are no kids that wave at our squad cars when we drive by. We don't even have squad cars. Nobody is buying our lunch. Nobody is patting us on the back. And there are no compliments by our population thanking us for the job that we do. So what do? I don't know. Let me ask you a question. What would you call a guy or a gal that would respond to an assault in progress, who would detain the assailant and make sure the victim was okay and take that assailant in handcuffs to where he needed to go? What would you call that person? Let me ask you this. If there was a fire, and what would you call the person that would race towards that fire, who would evacuate the people he needed to evacuate, who would put the fire out with the extinguisher or the hose or whatever? Who would you call that person? What about a person who would respond to an unresponsive individual laying on the ground face down in a pool of his own blood? What would you call that person who flipped them over, who applied compression to a wound on their own throat? What would you call that person? What would you call a person who would offer condolences for the loss of a family member, who would listen, who would show empathy when an individual was in crisis, who wanted to talk about the things that stressed them out and their plans for the future, and who would offer little tidbits of advice and motivation? What would you call that person? Now, what would you call a person who had to do all of those things in a given shift? One person, one uniform. What would you call that person? I would call them a correctional officer. Because inside, regardless of what you think we are, inside we are the police department, we are the fire department, we are EMS, we're dispatchers, we're high school counselors, we're motivational interviewers, we are step parents to some of these people. That's what we do on a daily basis. I saw a post the other day calling street plow operators first responders. People who plow the snow on the streets during a snow emergency, recognize them as first responders. But I'm not a first responder. And do you think I think about that when I'm running down the hallway towards an alarm? Do you think I think about that when a person is seizing and they're thrashing and I'm supporting their head with my hands? Do you think I think about that when I run into a situation and there's somebody threatening to jump off the top tier? Do you think I say, hey, guys, break it up. I'm not a first responder. You need to break it up. Sorry, person who's seizing on the ground. I'm not a first responder. Chipotle doesn't give me a first responder discount because I'm just corrections. So I'm just going to stand here. No, we don't say that. We don't say that because we don't really care if you think we're first responders or not. We know you don't know what we do. We know you couldn't do what we do. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. That's why I do what I do. Because you can't. Never in a million years could you. So let's do this. Let's say we're not first responders. Because what does it mean to be a first responder? It means there has to be an event that you're responding to. It means you're reactive. And we're not reactive. We're proactive. We stop it before it even starts. And we stop it from getting out of control. We don't even know what it is. You don't have to call me a first responder. You don't have to call me law enforcement. Maybe just don't say anything. And especially if you're trying to sell me something. If you're trying to sell me something, make something up. Look, every day, correctional officers go into their facility and they protect the community. They do a difficult and a dangerous and a thankless job. So did I buy the blue box of ammunition? Yeah, I bought 2 of the blue boxes of ammunition. And I thanked him for his help, and I thanked him for listening to me. And I left knowing that I do a job that nobody understands. And I left knowing that I do a job that that guy couldn't do in a million years.